Hi everyone, it's Friday and I know we're all working for the weekend and our theme today, it's Friday, praise the Lord, been there, done that, stories of resilience. And I am so excited to be with my co-hosts Sarah Nab and a wonderful, wonderful guest. And I'm so excited because you know what? I ended up getting two of these. I did vote. I promise I did vote in Boston. But I'm going to let Sarah do the welcome. And hello, everyone.
So yeah, this has been an incredible day of just hearing stories and being in the trenches with folks of just hearing what everyone goes through. And we're here with Amanda McKelly today, who brings an incredible visual, wonderful voice to the story of dealing with fertility issues and infertility. She's the director of a new film called Have a Baby. She's an Oscar-nominated director and cinematographer, and her film Have a Baby was based on her own experience of dealing with infertility after her husband was diagnosed with testicular cancer, something we've talked about earlier in the week. The film explores the challenges, both emotional and financial, of infertile couples who, what they have to go through pursuing their family through reproductive medicine. Have a Baby premiered at the Tribeca Film Festival in April and continues to tour film festivals across the country. That's got to be so exciting and stressful, probably. And is going to be released this coming year. Is that correct?
Yep, we're still in negotiations to figure out, but it'll be coming out within the next year.
Awesome. So Amanda's also a graduate of Harvard and a lecturer at Stanford's MFA film program, and you can learn more about her work at haveababymovie.com. Is that right? I got everything right?
That's right.
So welcome, and let's talk. Let's tell us about the film. Tell us about you.
Well, you guys did a very good intro, so you've given a lot of the backstory. I never set out to make a film about infertility in the first place. I make very diverse films, but oftentimes about women. And this film, I was really moved by the male characters that we ended up following. The film is not about my experience per se. It was inspired by my experience because when we got our diagnosis, I was just amazed at my own ignorance about my own fertility and also just the world of reproductive medicine and how overwhelming it was for us both emotionally and financially. And as a filmmaker, it's my mission in life to try to make sense of the world and connect with people, and I thought, wow, this would be an incredibly powerful subject for a film, but how do I do that? And we had done one round of IVF. We were very naive. We thought, okay, we're going to save up our money. You know, I technically was still, you know, my labs looked pretty good. I didn't seem to have any issues. I was 39 at the time. And they said, oh, you look good for your age. And my husband had this drastically low sperm count. And at the time, we did not know what the cause of that was. So we thought we had really good odds. I'm not sure I ever even asked what our odds were. I'm just not sure that I even knew that was an issue. I just really focused on getting the money together and doing it as fast as we could. And it didn't work for us. And I was just so shocked. I was like, what do you mean it didn't work? And so that gap in my expectation and my knowledge, and I consider myself a pretty well-educated person, made me feel like there was a need for more conversation and more education around this, and what better way to do this than documentary film. And after that first round failed, we were Googling on the internet possible financial solutions to our situation, and I was even considering moving back to Massachusetts to live with my family because there's mandated insurance coverage in Massachusetts. You know, there's nothing worse than imagining moving home with your parents at 39. So I came across an article about these clinics that were having contests and raffles for people who couldn't afford IVF and didn't have insurance coverage. And I thought, holy cow, this is such an incredible story and such an extreme example of the lengths that people are willing to go to in this country to have a chance at having a child. So that, for me, was a unique and interesting and provocative way in to the story, and so that was how the film was inspired. So maybe we should show the trailer so people get a sense.
That would be a great. I had such a privilege of seeing the movie with you in Boston. Well, with a lot of people because the theater was filled, but I was part of the panel, and it's just very raw and very, very accurate and very healing. I thought it was healing. So let's watch it. We'll be right back.
Roll the tape. Hey, Eric, just so you know, we're recording this, so the sound is important. Eric came in to make his lunch, and it's like,
oh, I didn't hear that.
Okay, so
we'll do a little bit of a pause to make it easy to edit back in, and then we can hop in. Kristen, who wants to react to the, I would not be the right one.
No, I'll react.
Okay.
So we'll just take a moment, just be quiet for a second, then we'll start up.
Yeah, and I can set the stage for you. I mean, the trailer basically shows you each of the three characters and their desire, and then this, you see this incredible array of faces all saying, please vote, please vote, please vote. And then in the end, you see Linda say something like, it's just raw pain. Being infertile is just raw pain. And then he said, have a baby.
Yeah, it was just a lot. Okay, so we'll just be quiet for a minute, and then. So we're so grateful that you are allowing us to see the trailer so everyone would know what we're talking about, and that if you've had experience like you were talking about, that is just what she said. It's pure raw. It's just raw. I remember sitting in that theater with the ugly cry trying to stop because, that experience, my personal experience with infertility, and I'm sure you'll echo it, it just stays with you. It's just part of who you are, like your eye color, like your hair color. It just becomes who you are, who you're going to become. But I like to focus on the healing part of your documentary because for me, it was very intense, but there was such healing there.
Well, I think that again is the power of documentary film is seeing your experience mirrored in someone else and being able to relate to someone perhaps very different from you. So I think that goes both ways. I think people who've struggled with infertility who see the film have a real sense of witnessing and being witnessed, and a sort of catharsis of like, I get that. Oh my God, that's what we went through. Right. Or maybe if that's not exactly what we went through, I understand what that person's going through. And then perhaps even more importantly for me as a filmmaker is for the fertile community who don't get it to see the film, and people have come up to me afterwards and said, oh my God, I had no idea. I had a close friend who went through this, and I realized I was so insensitive, or I just didn't get it. I mean, even my own mom said to me that she had a friend who was trying to have a child in a second marriage later in life, and she just didn't feel that sympathetic to what she was going through. And after seeing the film, she was like, oh my gosh, I just feel like I want to pick up the phone and call my friend and say I'm sorry. So it's about empathy and connection, yes, and a greater awareness and understanding. So I think, yeah, I mean, I certainly don't want to create a pity party and focus on, oh, woe is us. I think it's about sharing stories and acknowledging that the pain is real, and then also looking at what are the costs of pursuing treatment. How does it affect your relationship? How far would you go? How far are you going? How do you decide when to stop?
Right.
And who helps counsel you through those kind of decisions? And I think the film brings up all those questions, and not to mention what other options are out there for us. There's a couple in the film that really struggles because one of them is, well, I don't know, spoiler alert. One of them would really be open to adoption, and the other one is not. And and they have very incredibly personal reasons for why they each want to do what they want to do. So, so yeah, I'm really proud of the film and really excited to bring it out into the world, and excited for people in this community, and especially for men, to see the film and react to it.
Well, that's why I was so grateful that, you know, you're joining Sarah and I, because for me, the part that I took away was the fortitude and strength. And that, you know, poor Sarah's been with me all week and I've been crying all week, but I just saw, after I saw the movie, it was like, here are these men bearing this same feelings, and the women, and it's the fortitude and strength and the, I'm going to pull my bootstraps up and we're going to do whatever we take and then work it through. And so when I left there, that's what I mean about the healing, that the shame and the sadness was right there on that big screen, and then just that human spirit that doesn't give up. That's what I saw too, and I don't know if I'm a Pollyanna or what, but that's what I feel is so healing for other people too.
Well, I think that the great thing about sharing these stories is that everyone has their own reaction, and that's what I'm really excited about. You know, and when we can make the film available, I mean, right now, because that's like the first question people always ask is like, well, okay, you guys are talking about this movie, how do I see it? I mean, the best thing for people to do is to follow us. A lot of people use Facebook. @HaveABabyMovie is our handle, and HaveABabyMovie.com is the website, as you said. And as we get into film festivals, it's going to go to different cities around the country. So our next screening is in D.C. In June, late June.
Okay.
So, people can follow and see. So hopefully the film will come to a theater near you during its festival run, which is a great way to see the film because, you know, you were on a panel. We get to have these interactive discussions. But soon enough, it'll be streaming and on television and all those kinds of things. And I really look forward to hearing what specifically the male audience has to say, because I think they sometimes get ignored in this process.
Well, I thought you were very sensitive. I mean, I don't want to be a spoil alert, but when, you know, the camera just shows the male's response to what's happening in the clinic, that's what we've been talking about all week. You know, where do you fit in? What do you do? Who are you in this process? And that gives a little glimpse into that. And so that I feel so strongly that you need to track you down. You need to see the movie, and you know.
When we were going through it, I know, you know, so much of this process is played out on the woman's body,
right?
And you know, we noticed that the doctors tended to make eye contact with me, and Eric sometimes would be like, "Well, what am I, chopped liver?" You know, this is my husband. Like, what? Why is no one talking to me about what I'm feeling or interacting with me? And I think it's probably just habit, you know, that the women tend to, you know, not to stereotype, but we tend to be more vocal. We tend to take lead in the process. So the guy can sometimes feel like a sidekick, and that can be really damaging to not feel like you're really present in the process. So for me as a filmmaker, I always made a point to really put my lens on the guy to see what he was going through. And sometimes, you know, they could feel like a passenger, but the men that we were filming had really complicated inner thoughts, and I think their faces give it away.
Yes, they did, and just how you thoughtfully showed them. You know, we had Carol Lesser this week from Boston IVF, and we also had Dr. Serena Chen talk about what a man can expect when he goes into a fertility clinic, and what she as a doctor does when they do come in. And I think that's so important through this whole week that we talked about that, about, you know, there is a place for you, and what is your place, and make sure that you're honored and your emotional, you know, emotions are taken care of. I remember when I had a great friend who miscarried, and we were very close, and I went over to see her, and of course, you know, I had dinner and I had everything for her, and I walked in and we were, you know, I was focused on her, and then I went into the kitchen and her husband looked at me and he said, nobody said, "Hey John, you know, how you doing?"
Wow.
And I was like, that came in a book. I put that right in a book because I'm like, nobody did. No, and he goes, I lost a baby too, and nobody's talked to me.
Wow.
And I think you do. I'm bringing it back to you. I think you do such a great job of, with your lens through a man's eyes, how they're seeing that experience. So bravo. So that didn't go unnoticed with me, and I appreciated it.
So what? I mean, I'm just curious to to talk with you two about. I mean, what are ways, in addition to having the film to help keep the conversation going and draw people in and do outreach? I'm curious to know, what do you guys think is needed to make men feel more involved and have more of a voice, and what kind of outreach could we do with the film to help men stay connected on these issues and feel represented?
I think film is so powerful because film is one of those things that people can take in silently, and it's a group, it's a shared, especially film in an audience, in a public forum where you all are watching it together and you're experiencing it together. Capturing things that are surprising or not expected creates conversation, and that conversation ripples out. So when people watch films together, I think you begin conversation. So I think one thing you can do with the film is have people watch it together, encourage people to watch it together, get in touch with Resolve or other places where there's support groups, and encourage maybe men only to view it together, or for women to bring their husbands to watch it, and to just ask, like, does this resonate, or like let people have a space to talk, because the men that I talk to, they have stories to tell. They want to talk. They want to be involved. They want to share their grief, but they're not gonna step forward and be the first person to talk about it. So if you leave a hanging chat, if you leave an empty moment, a space, a silence that needs a fullness, I think a film is a beautiful way to do that.
Yeah, we actually are partnering with Resolve officially. So they are going to help us have, in addition to film festival screenings over the next year, we're going to have community screenings. And we're also going to ask and challenge people in the support groups to bring a fertile friend, like someone who may not get it, as a way to broaden the circle and the conversation. So we'll definitely keep your community posted as those screenings happen. We haven't started them yet, but we're hoping to do them hopefully like later this summer or early fall.
Yeah. Sarah has her pulse on male conversation, and she's so skilled speaking their language to them. For me, it's really, people come to me when they're in crisis. They're really trying to figure out what to do, and sometimes it's a process even for them to connect with me, within that time period or whatever. But I think you're spot on connecting with Resolve, but I also think what Sarah said, all the egg freezing parties and all that stuff, why can't it be shoot pool and watch the movie? Because I feel like if you do it in a way that will bring people together, not indirectly, maybe, instead of saying come watch the movie, say come play pool, and by the way, we're going to watch the movie. That might be a way. I don't know.
Party.
The name of it being a have a baby movie, you tend to put it towards a feminine, that feels like a woman's movie. So I think there's probably some good opportunities to create some provocative social media too around, is having a baby a woman's thing? Is it a woman's thing? Is this a woman's problem? And that kind of touches in with the kind of masculine feminine conversation that happens in social media. I think there's some interesting things that probably could be done there to incite dialogue on social media with either clips, trailers, or other kinds of things that could be pretty powerful to see some conversation about that. Men, I think the first step is men are starting to want to own fatherhood in new ways. I see that very powerfully even in my own siblings. So I'm the oldest of 5. I have 4 younger brothers. They're all in their 20s, getting into their 30s now, but watching them go through that process and say, yeah, I want to be a dad, like, that's a really important thing to me, and yeah, my buddy wants to be a dad. So that
Well, to echo that, not to interrupt you, but to echo that, I think I'm hearing that more, that I knew I always wanted to be a dad. And and I think, Sarah, you hit it. They're creating that opening for men to say that, and that's what we've done all week. We've just maybe done it in a little round of corner way, but just giving them permission to say, yeah, I know I always wanted to be a dad. I always wanted to be a father. So,
well, it's so different generationally too. Like, I think about, I hate generalizing, but I will say, like, if I look at my parents' generation, I don't know that they thought about it so much. It was more of an expectation and just sort of a given. And also, to be honest, I don't think they were that knowledgeable about birth control. And, and I just think there was less choice. And now, especially, post-birth control pill, post-ERA, women entering the workforce, this generation, or these couple of generations that are now coming of childbearing age, are dealing with such different gender dynamics and such different roles in the family, and men are having to make a choice or are able to make a choice versus just being like, well, that's what you do, and I think especially guys these days being with a woman who does have a powerful career. I mean, certainly there were plenty of women in my mom's era who had powerful careers, but I think people delayed childbearing less. They just tried to do it all at once, and now a lot of us don't even find a partner till we're older because we're so career focused. So it's a really different terrain for men and women, but I think especially for men, it's uncharted territory, dealing with these really, I don't know, just really challenging choices. That's the way I see it. Is like, if you really want to support if you're in a heterosexual couple, I don't want to make assumptions either, but if you're, and God forbid, if you're a guy in a gay couple, then it's even more complicated because you don't have a womb, and we've talked to people like that, men who want to be dads who are gay are facing a whole nother stream of challenges and stereotypes and barriers. But I don't know, I just really sometimes marvel at how fast things change and how interconnected technology and medical advances are to social change. And I am a card-carrying feminist. I'm super glad that I was raised to be a career-driven woman, but looking back, I realize now how much that affected my choices in relationships and trying to build a family. And I just try not to look back with regret and honor the choices that I made, but I certainly hope that the next generation will just have a lot more discussion around, what do you want? Do you want to be a dad? Do you want to be a mom? Is this part of how you view your life? Because to be honest, I just don't think I thought about it, because I don't know. I think it was sort of a backlash from the generation before me that I was like, I don't have to be a mom. I'm doing this.
Right. The swing. And now this generation, I think, has such an awareness and such openness to, to choice, to who you are and what you want to be and how's that going to look and feel, that, I see it with my kids, that there's already people who are, transgender and relationships, same-sex relationships, and it doesn't mean anything. It's just who they are, and they're accepting. But going back,
probably overwhelming. It's probably overwhelming how much choice they have, or they feel they have.
Yeah. I didn't mean to cut Sarah off before when she was saying all that good stuff, but one thing Sarah did for us when we first started, so this is our third year bringing this conversation to life, and I said, hey, I want to do this, it's a guy thing. And so for the first year, poor Sarah, I'm like, yeah, you're going to be part of it, we're going to do it together, you're so awesome, you got all this scientist stuff behind you, you can talk to guys the way you do it, don't cook your balls, I see you're always listening to you. So I did this whole thing, it's a guy thing, it's a guy thing. So afterwards we kind of, talked about it, like, what do you think? When she goes, well, it's a guy thing, it's a chick movie. It's a title for a chick movie. So we're changing the name. And I'm like, what do you mean? I didn't know it was a chick movie. And I'm like, why did you tell me before we, spent months, it's a guy thing. It really is a guy, all about guys. No, that's a chick flick movie. So I think it's amazing that we're here and we're focused on them, and that we're talking about this in a way and bringing up these questions, because that just opens great possibility. And so I think you did that with the movie, opening up eyes, opening up hearts, and open up possibilities. My cousins, who are a lot younger than I am, I said, "Oh, I'm coming into Somerville. I'm going to be on this panel. Why don't you come?" Well, we were there last night. I actually called them, and they were in the movie theater. I'm like, "You went and you didn't even tell us?" And they're like, "You're an hour and a half away." Blah, blah, blah. So they surprised me. I don't think I talked to you about this, Amanda, but they surprised me. I came around the corner, and they were there, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" And they're like, "We came to see you. What do you think? We're not going to see you?" So we're sitting there, and they know what my story was, my path was to create my children. They know our Auntie May, who died at 101 in the middle of a family event, said to me, "Why don't you just accept it? You're never going to have kids." You know, back then, I think she was 90-something, you know, and so they lived this whole experience with me, and now they see my son, who's almost 18, and my daughter's almost 13, and I'm sitting in the movie with them, and I'm concerned about them, because they're, you know, they're like my charges. They're still they're my babies in my eyes, and I'm looking at them, and I look, and the light comes on, and they're crying. The lights come up, and they're crying. And I'm like, "You okay?" And we're just like, group hug. Because I think it's just needs to be talked about, how precious and how loved we all are, and how, you know, that saying, you don't know what another person's going through until you actually know. A great friend of mine who's a shaman says, you don't know what you don't know until you know. And, you know, you might have an inkling, but what this Have a Baby movie does is pulls back the curtain, and you will not have an inkling, you will have a heart understanding. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
So my friend Sarah, we have the whole movie. We have
so powerful. I mean, just I think that's what film does, and I just like I love this about film is it breaks down barriers. It's like, here is a human experience. You are watching a human. You have to deal with that human that is on the screen, and that's them. That's their story. That's them, and it's raw and it's real, and you get captured by a story, and you're one-on-one with them, whoever's on the screen. And I think that ability to tell people stories, especially in situations like this where people can't tell their own stories, like, you know, infertility is a place where you just can't tell your story in a way that is in a way that captures the magnitude of what that story is. It's something to say, I'm having a hard time having a baby. That doesn't capture the magnitude of what you're experiencing when you're coming face to face with a reality of your whole biological existence and your body and your future and your DNA and your lineage and who you thought you were and your identity. All of those things come in, but you can't express that with words. You can express it by seeing that story, watching it. And so Amanda, thank you for doing that. For everybody who can't share their story, they can, because people like you are putting an image, putting a thing to it, saying the words without having to say the words. So
it's a last thing that I'll say. You know, it was really interesting in the process of doing this film. I mean, for starters, the people who are in the contest, it's a video contest, so they tell their story on YouTube to compete for a free round of IVF. And you know, some people find that horribly exploitative, and I can see why. But interestingly enough, like, most of the people we interviewed said that it felt good to get it out, and that they got support from their family members when they did this. Now, do I think that's the best way for people to be getting health care in America, is by doing a contest on YouTube? No. But I thought it was really interesting to note just how hungry people were to have their story heard and witnessed. And even when we were trying to sell the documentary and taking it around to, you know, very, how should I say it? You know, the documentary community is very progressive and issue-oriented and social issue-oriented, and I thought this would be a community that was incredibly receptive to this story, and a lot of people were concerned that it was like exploitative or too private, and I think it was a mixture of the contest and the film, and they couldn't quite differentiate between the two. So it's really interesting to see that fine line, especially these days where people are sharing so much on social media and where there still is this taboo around talking around this stuff, to see the reactions. Because you two obviously are like, I'm preaching to the converted. You're like, yes, share your story, share your story. But you know, it's interesting to see, and obviously, I don't want to belittle too, like what a big deal it is for all the people that we filmed in this film, and that wasn't just the two couples and the one single person who ended up in the final cut. We filmed with many people around the country, and it took an immense amount of courage for them to share their story. And I've really grappled with how much of my short story to share on the internet and how to do it. And you know, it's like, I don't know what's worse, having internet trolls react to your story or just no reaction, right? Because like that's sometimes my biggest fear as a storyteller is like, well, what if no one reacts at all? That's the worst. And the trolls you can almost handle because it's just sort of like, okay, at least there's people out there and there's a conversation going on. But I'll give you an example. The trailer for the movie that we saw earlier was posted on Upworthy. So I don't know if you all are familiar with Upworthy. They post things that they think are uplifting or unique or different, not, you know, just sort of trying to steer away from the blood and guts aspect of news. And they put the trailer on their Facebook page. And if you go to the Upworthy Facebook page and search Have a Baby Movie, you can see, I think it's gotten like almost 100,000 views. And the comments are, you know, they just go on and on and on. And a lot of it is really judgmental. And I'll say the number one judgment is, what is wrong with these people? Why don't they just adopt? And then the other one is just, you know, that the contest is exploitative, which, you know, we're used to. So it's just really interesting to see the comments that are out there. And I think that that fear of having either no one pay attention or having the judgment, or, you know, we had articles in the mainstream press about the movie, and, you know, just as soon as they leave those comments open at the bottom, it's almost better not to look sometimes. But, you know, one person wrote, and this was in response to me saying that I tried to have a child starting at 39, one person wrote that having a child when you're nearing 40 is obscene. And I was like, really? I mean, that's like, what culture are you living in, you know? So
you see this? This is obscene.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're looking at obscene right here, lady. Woo!
I don't want to take lightly that, yeah, I mean, I don't want to take lightly that sharing your story has certain risks involved, but we're really hoping that the film, when it reaches more mainstream audiences through our social media, will create a safe space for people to share their own stories, whether it be video or a posting or whatever they want to do. And we just haven't quite figured out yet, like, do you disable comments? You don't want to disable comments because you want to have a conversation, but I guess you just have to have rules. And if someone breaks the rules, you just delete their comment. But, you know, I really want to start a conversation where people also feel like it's a safe place. And it's a bit of a minefield.
Yeah, I think I get that. I mean, I get that all the time. I called Sarah not too long ago because someone said to me, "Shut up, Granny." Because I was talking about it. That's enough. Shut up, Granny. I was dying. And I was like, no, I'm not. And I'm like, really? Okay. And, you know, haters are going to hate. And that just shows their ignorance. I don't think that you know, you should even, you know, there's a saying, Wayne Dyer, what they think about me is none of their business, none of my business. And what they say is, you know, what their opinion. But I think if you just open it up for conversation, just like we do, you know, Sarah and I, you know, we're dedicated to this. We've been working for this, you know, this is a huge endeavor, and, you know, people are going to say what they're going to say, but I only focus on that one person that I'm going to help. And
Yeah.
that's how I think about it. You know what? I'm focusing on that one person that I'm shining the light for, and be damned everybody else. If you have I'm not going to judge you for having your opinion, but I'm just focusing on that one person that needed it.
Yeah, I mean, vulnerability is powerful, and vulnerability is what enables people to be courageous and take steps forward, but vulnerability also is what puts you out there for risks, and to have a conversation about anything that is real, authentic human experience. I mean, looking just recently at all of what's going on in social media about sexual assault right now, that's vulnerability, and there's a lot of conversation, and there are a lot of vulnerable people who are getting served by that conversation, and there are people who are getting reminded and re-hurt by that conversation. But the conversation is happening, and the conversation needs to happen. And I think the same with infertility. It's a vulnerable subject. There's going to be arrows. There's going to be risk in having the conversation, but the conversation still needs to be had. And those of us who have courage to have it, I think it's a charge. I think it's a calling to stand up and be a shield for those who need that support, to have the courage to come up and share, because like you've seen when you were filming, people creating space to be brave frees them from a lot of fear. And so just keep it up. Keep it
rock
up.
on, sister. Yeah, we're with you. Go, go, go.
Thank you, guys.
So you're going to keep us posted, and we're going to keep making sure all the men that are thinking and dreaming parenthood, fatherhood, are supported. So thank you so much. God be with you on this journey.
Before you leave, Amanda, are all your screenings on your website? Is that where they should go to find screenings?
Yeah, I think haveababymovie.com or at Have a Baby Movie Facebook. They both have the screenings up there, and we'll continue to update them. And hopefully we'll be starting these community screenings through Resolve support groups later, early fall probably.
Great. Okay. Keep everybody posted.
Yay. Thanks so much for having me.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.